Okay, so let's get right into it. We've all got these weird little quirks, right? These mental habits and loops we just can't seem to shake. But what if they aren't random at all? What if there is a hidden logic to the way your mind works, a kind of internal blueprint that explains, well, almost everything?
I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're in the shower or you're just driving, and suddenly, bam, you are delivering the most brilliant, devastating comeback to your boss or a friend, or let's be honest, someone who has no idea you're even upset with them.
Or how about this one? And this is a classic. You're introduced to someone new, you shake their hand, you say, "Nice to meet you," and literally 12 seconds later, their name has just vanished. Poof, gone, leaving you in that quiet, internal social panic.
And of course, the text message. Spending what feels like an eternity rewriting a simple text, analyzing every word, every comma, trying to predict every single way it could possibly be misinterpreted until the original point is almost totally lost.
But here's the thing, and this is the whole point. These behaviors, they aren't flaws. They are not signs that your brain is somehow broken. They are signals. They're clues that are pointing to a much, much deeper and more sophisticated system that's operating just beneath the surface.
So you might be asking, where does a system like that even come from? Well, the very first blueprint for your brain's entire operating system, it was written way, way before you were consciously aware of it. It was written in your earliest, most fundamental relationships.
You know, psychologists have a name for this. They call it attachment theory. And the basic idea is that your brain, when you're very young, comes to a conclusion about whether it's safe to depend on other people. And that conclusion becomes this neural template, a working model. And your brain carries that model forward into every single friendship, every romance, for the rest of your life.
Just think about the difference for a second. Let's say you grew up in a home where love and affection felt conditional, like it came with fine print. Your nervous system learns to scan for danger, for inconsistency. It's always braced for something to go wrong. But then, you meet a dog. A dog never looks at you and thinks, you could be doing better. That consistent, non-judgmental connection, to a nervous system that's expecting the worst, it registers as something almost sacred.
And this early blueprint, it has a really long-lasting echo. See, the brain doesn't just conclude those specific people were unsafe. It often makes a much bigger generalization, that people in general are unsafe. And that creates this constant, low-level hypervigilance for betrayal. It can even turn inward, making you second-guess your own gut feelings. So if you struggle with trust, listen to me. This is not a character flaw. It's a highly intelligent survival system that's just still running.
So how does this system actually run? What's going on in there? Well, it turns out there's a specific neurological engine that powers this inner world. The one where we're rehearsing arguments and replaying the past and worrying about the future.
It's called the default mode network, or DMN for short. And you can basically think of it as your brain's internal simulation engine. The second you stop focusing on something out in the world, this network just lights up and starts generating your inner monologue, your memories, your daydreams, all those social simulations.
And the process is actually pretty straightforward. Step 1, you disengage from whatever you're doing. Step 2, the DMN kicks into high gear. Step 3, it just starts running its programs, those imagined conversations, those what-if scenarios. But here's the real key. Step 4. For some of us, this internal world can become so rich and so rewarding that it starts to feel safer and honestly, more compelling than the real world outside.
And you can really think of the DMN's output as two sides of the very same engine. On one side, you've got overthinking, what psychologists call rumination. That's your DMN rehearsing a problem on a loop, which actually just preserves the negative feeling instead of helping you process it. And then on the other side, you have daydreaming. That's when the DMN builds this entire fantasy world to meet an emotional need, for control, for connection, that maybe the real world just isn't giving you.
And this all leads us to this really fascinating paradox. The very same cognitive machinery that makes a mind incredibly powerful is often the exact thing that makes it anxious. It seems there's a price for this level of awareness.
And the research on this is really, really clear. There is a documented link between high verbal intelligence, basically being good with words and language, and a higher tendency to worry. See, your brain is, among other things, a threat detection machine. So a more powerful brain doesn't always mean a calmer brain. A lot of the time, it just means a faster, more efficient threat detector, one that can whip up a dozen worst-case scenarios in the blink of an eye.
And this reframes so much, doesn't it? I mean, think back to forgetting that person's name.
it's probably not because you have a bad memory. It's because in that exact moment, your brain was already busy. It was preoccupied, running its own internal monologue, worrying about what to say next. You weren't absent-minded, your attention was just hijacked by your own internal weather.
In this internal weather, it shows up in all these other ways too, like that intense self-doubt. That's not a weakness. It's often a side effect of seeing the full, messy complexity of a situation. Or feeling totally overwhelmed in loud places. That's not just you being too sensitive. Your brain is literally processing more sensory input. Even being a night owl seems to be neurological. These aren't personal failings. They're just features of a highly active mind.
So if all this is just kind of how your mind is built, what are you supposed to do about it? Well, the goal shifts. It's no longer about fixing your brain or silencing it. The goal is to build a fundamentally different and maybe more honest relationship with it.
And let's be really clear about this. Chasing some fantasy of a perfectly quiet Zen mind, it's probably not going to happen. And frankly, trying is just going to add a whole new layer of frustration to your life. Instead, the goal is a more honest relationship. It's about developing the ability to look at a thought spiral and just calmly say, okay, I see what you're doing. I know why you're here. That's where the real power is.
You can start this whole process by asking a better question. Not, how do I make this feeling go away, but what is this thought actually trying to protect me from? A lot of the time, the danger your brain is still scanning for, it dissolved years ago. All that's left is a very, very well-practiced habit. So let's end with this. What if all these things that you've been seeing as your flaws, the overthinking, the self-doubt, that rich, complicated inner world, what if they aren't problems to be solved at all? What if they're actually signals of your depth, of your empathy, of your capacity to think in complex ways? What if they're actually the most interesting parts of you?